General Yoon stood on the bridge of his giant spaceship. He looked at the small blue planet on the big screen. The aliens on that planet called it Earth. These aliens, humans, had just built their first faster-than-light ships. This meant the Galactic Confederation had to meet them. Yoon had done this many times before. His people had met 37 new alien species already. He was not worried. "We can talk to them now, General," said Lieutenant Do-Yun. His thin feelers moved back and forth, showing he was a bit nervous. "Show them on screen," Yoon said. He fixed his fancy uniform and stood up straight. This was just routine work for him. The screen changed and he saw a human woman. She wore a dark, simple uniform with few marks, showing her rank. "I am Admiral Minji from Earth's United Space Command. Welcome to our star system," she said. General Yoon made the official greeting motion with his arms. "I am General Yoon from the Galactic Confederation. We come as friends. We want to welcome humans to the big family of space-traveling people." "Admiral," Minji smiled. Yoon knew this was a friendly human face movement. "Thank you for the welcome, General. Our people who make peace deals are ready to talk with yours." They talked about normal first meeting things, learning about each other's cultures, planning meetings, and talking about future trade. Everything was going just like the hundreds of first meetings Yoon had seen before. Then Yoon asked what he thought was a simple question. "We have seen your warships practicing in the outer parts of your star system. Very good for a new space species. Where do your pilots and soldiers train?" Admiral Minji's face stayed calm. "We have many training places. Our main fighting school is on Venus." Yoon's second heart jumped in shock. His helper, Captain Hana, made a loud gasp sound behind him. "Venus?" Yoon said slowly. "The planet next to yours? The one with heat of 462 degrees? Air pressure 92 times stronger than Earth and clouds made of acid?" Admiral Minji nodded like this was normal. "Yes, that's the one. The hard conditions make our soldiers better. Our new recruits train there. For 16 weeks before they get their jobs." The whole bridge went quiet. Yoon looked at his science officer, who was checking the facts very fast on his computer. "Maybe our language computer made a mistake," Yoon suggested. "No mistake, General," Admiral Minji said. "We learned long ago that hard places make stronger fighters. Venus is just one of our training worlds." When the talk ended and they planned more official meetings, General Yoon turned to his officers. "Find out everything about these humans," he ordered in a quiet, urgent voice. "Right now." Everyone on the bridge looked worried. No species in the history of the Confederation had ever trained on a planet like Venus. Most aliens couldn't even land on such a terrible world, let alone live there for weeks. 3 days later, Yoon sat in the meeting room with his top officers. The ship now circled Earth, and they had collected much more information. "It's true, sir," said Intelligence Officer Taeyeon. Her skin changed to a worried blue color. "Humans really do have permanent military bases on Venus and Mercury." "That cannot be," said Captain Hana. "Those places would kill any normal living being in minutes." "They use special protection technology," Taeyeon continued. "But their soldiers train in special buildings where they slowly get used to the terrible conditions. According to their public military records, every human soldier must learn to fight in what they call extreme environment combat." Yoon looked at the 3D images showing the human training bases. "Do their normal people know about this?" "They are proud of it," Science Officer Jiho said, his voice showing he could hardly believe it. "They make entertainment shows about it. Their most honored soldiers are the ones who do best in places that would kill most Confederation species instantly." Un felt cold fear run through his body. In 16,000 years of Confederation history, no other species had built permanent bases on such deadly planets. Most civilizations stayed far away from such worlds. "There's more, sir," Taeyeon added, not wanting to continue. "We found human activity on a moon they call Io around their biggest gas planet. It has active volcanoes and deadly radiation that should make it impossible to visit." "What could they possibly be doing there?" Hana asked. Taeyeon's skin got even darker blue. "According to messages we picked up, it holds their best special forces training base. They call it Hell Camp. The room went completely silent. Envoy studied pictures of human soldiers in their protective suits, training in places that every other space-traveling race would call death zones. That evening, Yoon stood alone in his private room, looking out the window at Earth. It looked so peaceful, so normal. How had it made beings who willingly trained in places the Confederation classified as biologically prohibited? His computer beeped. It was a message from Confederation High Command, marked urgent. The humans had invited a delegation of Confederation officers to visit their training facility on Venus. Yoon sat down heavily in his chair. The humans weren't just surviving in hell, they were inviting guests. 2 weeks later, General Yoon stood in a large room on his ship. With him were 5 other alien officers. They were all getting ready to visit Venus. "These suits will keep you alive," said a human technician. He held up a shiny silver suit. "They are our best environmental protection suits. They can handle Venus conditions for up to 12 hours. Yoon looked at the suit with doubt. His species had tried to make suits that could work on Venus-like planets for hundreds of years. None had lasted more than an hour. "Are you sure these will work?" asked Captain Hana. The human technician smiled. "Of course. This is the basic model. We give to first-year cadets." The aliens looked at each other with worry. First-year cadets? These humans gave their youngest, newest soldiers technology that the Confederation considered impossible to make? Han put on the suit carefully. It felt strange on his exoskeleton, but not uncomfortable. The humans helped each alien officer with their suits, making sure everything fit properly. "The shuttle leaves in 30 minutes, said Colonel Dong-hyun, their human guide. "Any questions before we go?" Science Officer Ji-ho raised his hand. "Why Venus? Of all places to train, why pick the most deadly planet in your system?" Colonel Dong-hyun thought for a moment. "When we first started going to space, we learned something important. Space doesn't care if you live or die. It will kill you in seconds, if you make a mistake. So we decided our soldiers needed to learn that lesson early." "But Venus," Ji-ho said. "Venus teaches respect," Dong-hyun said. "When your training ground can melt lead and crush submarines, you learn to respect the universe very quickly. Our dropout rate is only 12%. The rest learn and become stronger." The aliens were quiet as they finished putting on their suits. Soon they were on a shuttle heading down to Venus. Through the thick windows, Yoon could see the yellow-white clouds of acid getting closer. His first heart beat fast, while his second heart slowed down, the way his species showed fear. "We're entering the upper atmosphere," said the human pilot. "Everyone check your suit seals one more time." The shuttle shook hard as it pushed through the thick air of Venus. The outside temperature gauge kept climbing. 200 degrees, 300 degrees, 400 degrees. "How can anything survive down there?" whispered Captain Hana. "Humans don't just survive," said Colonel Dong-hyun, who heard her. "We thrive on challenge." The shuttle finally broke through the clouds. Yoon could see the surface of Venus now. It was a rocky wasteland with some mountains in the distance. In the middle of this hell was a group of large domes and buildings, the human training base. The shuttle landed in a protected hangar. When the doors opened, Yoon could feel the incredible heat even through his special suit. The air pressure pushed against him from all sides. "Welcome to Camp Phoenix," said Colonel Dong-hyun, "our oldest and largest Venus facility." They walked through the hangar into a huge dome. Inside were hundreds of humans in training. Some wore light protective suits. Others wore almost nothing at all. They were lifting heavy things, running on tracks and fighting each other with practice weapons. "This is the main training floor," Dong-hyun explained. "The conditions in here are much milder than outside, only about twice Earth's pressure and around 80 degrees Celsius. "You call that mild?" asked Taeyeon, whose scales had turned a sickly green color. "For Venus, yes," Dong-hyun said. "We start all recruits here for their first month." He led them to a viewing area where they could see more training rooms. Each room had different settings. Some were hotter, some had more pressure. In the farthest rooms, humans in special suits trained in conditions that looked almost like the real Venus outside. Our best graduates can work outside in the natural Venus environment for up to an hour with just a breathing mask and eye protection, Dong-Hyun said with pride. The pressure and heat make them stronger. Yoon couldn't believe what he was seeing. His own species would die in seconds in such conditions, even with the best protection. You said Venus was just one of your training grounds, Yoon said. Where are the others? Colonel Dong-Hyun smiled. We have bases on Mercury for heat endurance, bases on Titan for cold training, stations in Jupiter's radiation belts, orbital facilities for vacuum exposure. Each environment teaches different lessons. Just then, a loud alarm sounded. Red lights flashed throughout the dome. What's happening? Asked Captain Hana, ready to run. Training exercise, Dong-Hyun said calmly. Watch the main floor. The normal gravity in the training dome suddenly increased. Yoon felt heavy, like something was pushing him down. Many of the human trainees fell to their knees. Others struggled to stand. We just doubled the gravity, explained Dong-Hyun. This simulates high-gravity worlds. The recruits need to learn to fight even when they weigh twice as much. As they watched, most of the young humans slowly stood up. Some began to run, though their movements were slow and difficult. Others started fighting exercises again, lifting their arms with obvious effort. Impressive, admitted Yoon. But how? Does this help in real combat situations? Let me show you, Dong-Hyun said. He led them to another part of the dome. This room had a large window looking into what appeared to be a battle simulation. Two teams of humans in minimal protection fought over a small hill. The room's display showed it was set to Venus-like conditions. These soldiers graduate next week, said Dong-Hyun. They've trained in these conditions for 6 months. Yoon watched the humans move. Despite the crushing pressure and heat, they fought with amazing speed and strength. They used the harsh environment in clever ways. One soldier used a steam vent as cover while another used the high pressure to jump farther than should be possible. Now watch this, said Dong-Hyun. He pressed some buttons on a control panel. Door opened, and 3 large alien-looking robots entered the training room. They were twice the size of the humans and carried heavy weapons. Combat drones, explained Dong-Hyun, programmed to fight like the strongest warrior species we know about. The robots attacked the human teams. Yoon was sure the humans would lose. The robots were bigger, stronger, and had better weapons. But the humans didn't run. They didn't even look worried. Instead, they worked together in small groups. They used the terrible Venus environment against the robots. One team created a steam explosion that confused the robot's sensors. Another team led a robot into an area with higher gravity, where it became slow and clumsy. In less than 10 minutes, all 3 robots were defeated. That was our easiest combat simulation, said Dong-Hyun. By graduation, they faced 12 robots at once. The alien officers stood in shocked silence. Colonel Dong-Hyun led them back to the main area, where they saw something even more surprising. Large group of human children, maybe 10-12 years old, was entering the training dome. School field trip, explained Dong-Hyun when he saw their confusion. We start showing children these environments early, not for training, just for education. They need to understand what's out there. You bring children to Venus, gasped Taeyeon. Of course. How else will they learn to respect space? Many of them will become soldiers or colonists someday. Best to let them see the challenges early. As they watched, the children put on lightweight protective suits and entered a special room with milder conditions. They looked excited, not scared. On the way back to the shuttle, Yoon was quiet. Everything he thought he knew about humans was wrong. They didn't just survive in deadly places, they brought their children there for school trips. Back on the ship, Yoon called an emergency meeting with his officers. The humans don't just train on Venus, he said. They've made it their own. They're teaching their bodies to live there. It goes against everything we know about species development, said Science Officer Jaiho. Species are supposed to stay in environments they evolved for. Humans don't care what they're supposed to do, said Intelligence Officer Taeyeon. They see a deadly planet and think, let's go there and get stronger. Yoon looked out the window, at Venus. The deadly yellow planet now seemed different to him. It wasn't just a death zone anymore. It was a human training ground. Update all reports to High Command, he ordered. Humans are not just a new species. They are something we've never seen before. A species that doesn't accept limits. That night, Hun couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the human children on Venus, looking at the deadly world with excitement rather than fear. What would such a species become in 100 years? 1,000? For the first time in his long career, General Seo-un felt afraid of the future. 1 month after the Venus visit, General Yoon stood on the bridge of his ship. The Galactic Confederation and Earth had agreed to hold war games. These were pretend battles to test each side's skills. No real weapons would be used. Yoon watched. The big screen where small dots showed the positions of ships. 5 Confederation ships against 3 human ships. The humans were clearly outmatched. Their ships were smaller and had older technology. The war games will start in 1 hour, said Captain Hana. All ships are in position. Good, said General Yoon. This should be an easy win for us. Admiral Minji stood nearby. She had come to watch the games from the Confederation flagship. She smiled when she heard Yoon's words. Don't be too sure, General, she said. We humans enjoy surprises. The war games started smoothly. The Confederation ships moved in perfect formation. They had done this many times before. The human ships tried different moves, but they couldn't get past the alien defenses. After 3 hours, Yoon began to relax. The humans fought well, but they couldn't match the Confederation's technology and experience. They're good, but not good enough, said Yoon to his officers. At this rate, we'll win in another 2 hours. Just then, a red light started flashing on the control panel. Sir, we've lost contact with Defense Station 7, reported Lieutenant Do-yoon. Yoon frowned. How? There are no human ships in that area. Unknown, sir. The station just went silent. Before Yoon could respond, more red lights appeared. Sir, stations 8, 9, and 10 are also silent. Yoon turned to Admiral Minji. What is happening? She just smiled and pointed to the screen. Watch. Suddenly, the main space station that was the target of the war games flashed red. A message appeared. Station captured by human forces. The bridge went completely quiet. The war games had been planned to last at least a day. The humans had won in just over 3 hours. How is this possible? Demanded Yoon. There are no human ships near the station. True, said Admiral Minji. We didn't use ships for this attack. She took out a small device and projected a 3D image in the air. It showed humans in strange suits moving through space without ships. They looked almost like they were swimming between the stars. Meet our Void Walkers, she said. Special forces trained on Io. Impossible, said Science Officer Jiho. No one can survive in space without a ship. Not survive permanently, no, agreed Minji. But our Void Walkers can work in open space for up to 6 hours with minimal protection. She showed more images. The human soldiers wore thin suits that looked nothing like normal spacesuits. They carried small jetpacks and special weapons. The suits protect against the worst of the cold and radiation, Minji explained. Everything else is training and body modification. Body modification? Asked Yoon, not sure he wanted to know. Small changes to help survive in space better. Stronger lungs, better radiation resistance, nothing too extreme. Yoon and his officers stared at the images in shock. The Confederation had never even thought of sending soldiers into open space with just suits. It was considered impossible. While your ships were fighting our decoy vessels, the Void Walkers were already in position, said Minji. They launched days ago and just waited. In open space? For days. Captain Hana couldn't believe it. In sleep pods, yes. Then they woke up, disabled your defense stations, and captured the main station. Game over. After Admiral Minji left, Hyun called an emergency meeting with his senior officers. This changes everything, he said. Humans don't fight like normal species. They don't follow the rules of warfare as we understand them. How can they even think of sending soldiers into space like that? Asked Captain Hana. It's practically suicide. Intelligence Officer Taeyeon pulled up more information on her screen. According to their military records, the Void Walker program has existed for 15 years. They lose only about 5% of trainees. What kind of training could prepare someone for open space? Asked Jiho. EO, said Taeyun. The radiation levels there are similar to open space. They use special chambers that simulate vacuum conditions. They gradually expose the soldiers to more and more extreme conditions. Yoon remembered the Venus training facility. Just like they do on Venus with heat and pressure. Exactly, said Taeyun. Each deadly environment teaches them something different. Venus teaches them to handle pressure and heat. Io teaches them to handle radiation and vacuum. The room was quiet as everyone thought about what this meant. There's more, said Taeyun finally. We've found information about other human special forces. They have units trained on Europa under the ice, units trained in the storms of Jupiter, even units that work in the rings of Saturn. But why? Asked Captain Hana. Why push themselves into such deadly places? Yoon thought for a moment. Because space is mostly made of deadly places. We Confederation species evolved on nice, friendly planets. We look for other nice, friendly planets to visit. Humans are preparing to go everywhere else. A week later, Yoon was called to a special meeting with the Confederation High Command. 20 of the most powerful generals from different alien species sat around a large table. They all looked worried. General Yoon, said Supreme Commander Bora, an old alien with gray skin. Your reports about humans are disturbing. Are they really as dangerous as you suggest? Yoon chose his words carefully. Humans are not dangerous in the way we normally think about danger. They don't want to conquer or destroy, but they are dangerous because they think differently than us. Explain, said Commander Bora. When we see a deadly planet, we avoid it. When humans see a deadly planet, they figure out how to live there. When we see the vacuum of space, we build ships to protect us. When humans see vacuum, they build suits and train their bodies to survive it. He showed the images from the war, games, the Void Walkers moving through space, the Venus training base, the other facilities across the human solar system. In just a few hundred years since they first went to space, humans have learned to survive in environments that we thought were impossible. What will they be like in 1,000 years? 10,000? The High Command talked among themselves. Uni could see they were afraid. Finally, Commander Bora spoke again. What do you recommend, General Yoon? Should we see humans as a threat? Yoon thought carefully before answering. No. We should see them as an opportunity. The room became quiet. This was not what they expected. The Zeltan Empire is growing stronger on our borders, Yoon continued. They have attacked 3 Confederation systems already. Their soldiers can fight in high radiation environments where our troops struggle. He pointed to the images of the Void Walkers. But Zeltans have never faced anything like human special forces. Humans can fight in radiation, vacuum, crushing pressure, extreme heat, or cold anywhere. Understanding slowly spread across the alien faces around the table. You're suggesting an alliance with humans, said Commander Bora, using their special abilities to help defend the Confederation. Yes, said Yoon. Humans don't want to conquer. They want to explore, to push boundaries. We can give them new challenges, new environments to master. In return, they can help us fight in places we cannot. 3 days later, Yoon met with Admiral Minji again. This time it was for a formal meeting on Earth. The Confederation had decided to offer humans full membership, not just the normal probationary status for new species. Your Void Walkers impressed our leadership, Yoon told her. We've never seen anything like them. Minji nodded. They're just the beginning. We're developing new training programs for gas giant environments, for deep space, even for the surfaces of stars. Stars? Yoon couldn't hide his shock. That's impossible. Today, yes, said Minji with a smile, but we're working on it. Give us a few decades. As they walked through the human military headquarters, Yoon saw pictures on the walls. They showed human soldiers in strange environments, the crushing depths of oceans, the burning surfaces of lava lakes, the freezing wastes of Pluto. You know, said Minji. We have a saying on Earth, where humans can't go, we find a way to go anyway. Yoon believed it. In just the short time he had known humans, he had stopped thinking anything was impossible for them. The Confederation needs that spirit, he said. We've grown too comfortable, too set in our ways. You humans remind us that the universe is full of wonders, if we're brave enough to face them. Minji stopped and looked out a window at the night sky. So many stars, so many places to explore. The universe is mostly made of places that kill. We decided long ago not to let that stop us. Yoon looked at the stars too. For the first time, he saw them the way humans did, not as distant points of light but as futures waiting to be claimed. No wonder the Confederation generals had panicked when they first learned about human training. But now, Yoon wasn't afraid. He was excited. With humans as allies, the Confederation would never be the same again. 6 months after first contact, humanity had been formally admitted to the Galactic Confederation as a probationary member. As part of the integration process, all new species participated in joint military exercises with Confederation forces. These war games were designed to assess military capabilities and foster cooperation. General Yoon, now the Confederation's liaison to Earth, stood in the command center of the GCS Illustrious, the flagship for the exercises. Beside him, Admiral Minji represented Earth's forces. The scenario is standard, Yoon explained. Your forces will attempt to secure the objective, a space station in the Kuiper Belt, while our forces defend it. Non-lethal weapons only, of course. Admiral Minji nodded. We understand the parameters, General. Our forces are ready. The war games began predictably. Human ships, while technologically less advanced than Confederation vessels, displayed surprising, tactical flexibility. Still, the Confederation forces, drawing from the military expertise of 37 species, maintained a clear advantage, until the third day. General, we've lost contact with defensive perimeter stations 7 through 15, reported Captain Hana. How? There are no human ships in that sector, Yoon replied, studying the tactical display. Unknown, sir. Last automated reports indicated no enemy contacts. Admiral Minji stood quietly, watching the confusion spread through the Confederation. Command Center. Perimeter stations 16 through 22 now offline, another officer reported. Yoon turned to Minji. What have you done? Special operations, she replied calmly. While your forces focused on our ships, we deployed our Phantom teams. Deployed how? We've been tracking all launches. Before Minji could answer, the tactical display flashed red. Station secured, announced the exercise controller. Human forces have achieved the objective. Stunned silence fell over the command center. The exercise had been scheduled for 7 days. The humans had won in less than 3. How did your teams approach undetected? Yoon demanded. Admiral Minji activated her datapad, showing footage of human soldiers in specialized suits, moving through the vacuum of space at incredible speeds. Void walkers, she explained. Special forces trained on Io. They use minimal life support and can function in hard vacuum for up to 8 hours. They launched 2 weeks ago and maneuvered using only short thruster bursts to avoid detection. That's impossible, Science Officer Jiho protested. No known species can survive vacuum exposure for more than minutes, even with protection. The radiation alone is a training condition on Io, Minji finished for him. General, did you think we established bases on Venus and Mercury merely for show? Every environment in our system teaches different lessons. Io taught us to embrace the void. Later, in private conference with his senior staff, General Yoon received the final assessment. It's worse than we thought, reported Intelligence Officer Taeyeon. Humans have military training facilities on every planet and major moon in their system, even some with liquid methane oceans and others with radiation levels that should prohibit all life. They're not just surviving in these environments, added Jiho. They're weaponizing them, training their bodies to withstand conditions that would kill any other Confederation species. Yoon stared out the viewport at Earth, so innocuous in appearance. Update the assessment for High Command, he ordered quietly. Humanity isn't just a new member species. They're a military power unlike any we've encountered. 1 year after first contact, General Yoon stood before the Confederation High Council, delivering his final assessment of humanity as their probationary period ended. In conclusion, he stated, while humans lack the technological advancement of many Confederation species, their biological adaptability and military training methodologies represent a significant strategic asset. Grand Counselor Wu Jin leaned forward. You've changed your assessment considerably, General. Your initial reports expressed concern, even alarm, at human military capabilities. Perspective, Grand Counselor, Yoon replied. Initially, we viewed humanity's extreme environment training as a potential threat. Further observation reveals it to be an unprecedented opportunity. The council chamber's displays showed footage from recent joint exercises. Human soldiers training Confederation forces in Venus-like environments, teaching techniques to withstand pressure and heat previously thought impossible for most species. 3 months ago, Yoon continued, a human special forces team rescued the captured crew of a Praxian science vessel from the methane seas of Titan VI, an environment our own rescue teams couldn't penetrate. Last month, human voidwalkers extracted our diplomats from the failed negotiations on Karos, moving through radiation zones our ships couldn't approach. Admiral Minji, now serving as Earth's military attaché to the Confederation, stepped forward. At Yoon's gesture, humanity doesn't view harsh environments as obstacles, she explained. We see them as opportunities to grow stronger. What began as military necessity on Earth, adapting to fight in any terrain, evolved as we reached to the stars. Each hostile world became another challenge to overcome. Displays showed training facilities across Earth's solar system, the crushing pressure chambers of Venus, the radiation endurance courses of Io, the extreme cold survival school on Pluto, the methane immersion training on Titan. The Zeltan incursion on our rimward frontier has already pushed back 3 defensive fleets, said Grand Counselor Wu Jin. They thrive in high radiation environments where our forces operate at reduced capacity. Which is precisely why I've proposed integration of human special forces into our response, Yoon replied. Admiral Minji has already volunteered 3 Voidwalker companies. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Yoon stood firm, his earlier fears transformed to respect. He recalled his first glimpse of human training on Venus, how alien and terrifying it had seemed. Now he understood. In a galaxy where most intelligent species evolved in relatively hospitable environments, humanity had pushed itself to master the inhospitable by choice. What had begun as a cause for panic among Confederation generals had become their greatest hope. Later, as the council session concluded with the formal admission of humanity as full Confederation members, Yoon approached Admiral Minji. Your special forces deploy to the frontier next week, he said. The Zeltans have never faced anything like them. Minji nodded. Every hostile world teaches new lessons, General. It seems the Zeltans are about to learn what we discovered long ago. Which is, Yoon asked. That the harshest environments forge the strongest warriors, she replied. And humanity has been forging itself in the fires of hell for centuries. As Yoon watched the human delegation depart, he reflected on how quickly fear could transform to admiration. The Confederation had encountered many species in its long history, but never one that deliberately sought out the most hostile environments for training. Perhaps he thought that's exactly what the Confederation had needed all along.